Let's keep marching on, guys, to the co-main event, UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi. In the in the middleweight division, Khamzat Chimaev.
Really fast. I'm sorry. Did we know Dariush versus Sarukian was booked already? Because if we didn't,
No.
it's booked.
They must have just done that.
Yep. December 2nd. I guess it's the main event.
Wow.
'cause It's on a
God
Friday.
damn.
Dariush and Sarukian. Good for Sarukian. He finally got a big fight.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I mean, good for Dariush. That's a hell of a one to get back on the wagon with.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a big fight.
Yeah, man.
All right, Mike, I'm sorry to ruin your co-main event build. Please begin
That's okay.
again.
Co-main event, Kamaru Usman taking on Khamzat Chimaev. Chimaev was originally supposed to face
Paulo Costa.
Paulo Costa. Costa had some kind of elbow surgery out of nowhere. And who steps up but the former UFC welterweight champion, Kamaru Usman, stepping up to middleweight, man. He was always a huge, or super jacked welterweight, and now he's going to basically cut way less weight. I think he still cut a little bit.
Yeah, he said he was
to make
cutting a bit.
85. Stepping up. All right. Chimaev, the 29-year-old, fighting out of Stockholm, Sweden, undefeated, 12-0. Only one of those 12 wins has gone to the scorecards. 6 knockouts, 5 submissions. Most recently, he submitted another late notice switch up in Kevin Holland back in September of last year. So Chimaev returning after a little more than a year. He'll be standing across from Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian Nightmare. Not as good as the Nicaraguan Nightmare, I'll have to say. 36 years old, 20-3 as a professional with 10 finishes, 9 of them knockouts. But Usman lost his welterweight strap to Leon Edwards back in August of 2022, got back in there, and then lost again in the rematch to Edwards, this time by a majority decision. And now he's moving up, stepping up in a big way, taking on the boogeyman, Khamzat Chimaev. Mark, why don't you start us off this time? Give us the odds of this awesome fight, and then your take and your pick.
So it's definitely the biggest underdog Kamaru Usman's been in maybe ever. He is plus 250. Khamzat Chimaev is minus 320 as the favorite.
Wow.
2 inches of height for Chimaev, 1 inch of reach actually for Usman. This is a fight, obviously, that a lot of people had always hoped for down at welterweight during the rise of Chimaev when Usman was the champ and all that. They had talked about fighting each other a bunch of times, even after Usman lost the rematch to Leon recently. There was talk again of this fight, but Chimaev kind of already had plans of going up to middleweight, and apparently Usman tried to pitch Dana on letting it happen at like 178 or something like that, and Dana was just anti-catchweight and didn't want to do that, and now Usman ends up accepting it at 185 anyway, because MMA is the weirdest sport ever, and this is how this had to finally come together. But as for the fight, I know everyone is clamoring to pick Khamzat Chimaev here, and I guess I am going to pick him also, but Kamaru Usman is really, really good, and he could test Khamzat in a lot of ways here. Like, I feel like Usman lost the belt, and then he's, like, coming up and taking it on short notice, and everyone's kind of like, it's too much. But, like, don't count this man out, because, first off, if Chimaev is going to – well, let me get to that next, actually. I'll say this first. Is Chimaev going to out-wrestle Kamaru Usman? Like, maybe he is, but have we ever seen another human out-wrestle Kamaru Usman?
Here's what I saw. I saw Chimaev lift DC's fat ass like if he weighed nothing. That's what I saw. And if he can do that to DC, it's very possible with adrenaline, because that was outside of an elevator.
Yeah.
So with adrenaline, can he pick up a 200-pound at most Usman? I kind of do think that that's
trying
possible.
To prevent being lifted, though, dude.
I don't disagree with that.
Can he pick him up scenario?
I don't disagree with you at all. DC's still like 240 fucking pounds right now or something. Like,
I mean,
he's
look,
a big boy.
Maybe he can, but I'm pretty sure Usman has the best takedown defense in the UFC. I could be wrong, but I feel like I've heard that before. So it's far from a sure thing, considering we've never seen anyone do it to Kamaru before. Secondly, which is what I almost started to say before, is if Khamzat is going to come out guns blazing, the way that we know he's prone to do, especially if it's with wrestling that Usman is able to nullify, at least in the early going, could we see cardio become a factor? Because for Chimaev to come out that hard that quickly the way he does, if he's trying to wrestle and the scrambles are not going his way and he has to work that hard early, who knows what happens there? And maybe Khamzat has cardio for days. That's what I mean about all of this. There's a lot of unanswered questions about Chimaev, even though he's made it this far in his career already. So maybe he does have cardio for days and he's going to be 100% fine. But we know that Usman does. We know that he can fight 25-minute fights on a regular basis. We know the way that he can pace himself and control exchanges and win rounds as fights go on. So if Chimaev does come out hot in round one and it doesn't necessarily go how he wants it to go, you wonder how he adjusts to that. So one way or another, I think we're going to learn a lot about Chimaev in this fight. But I'm going to go with him because if he can somewhat manage his burst and his push, then I do think that his, I'm here to kill you style against Usman's more buttoned-up style could be an advantage. I don't think Kamaru is going to love dealing with the swarm that Chimaev puts on, as long as Chimaev can maintain that swarm. Plus, we've seen Usman fight a lot of smaller guys in this run. Like, Colby is not a big 170-pounder. Jorge's a former lightweight. Burns is a former lightweight. RDA is a former lightweight. I could see the size and strength of Chimaev maybe being just enough to edge Kamaru here. So, also I'll say this. There's this clip circling today of open workouts where it sounds like Usman tells Justin Gaethje that something popped when they fall on the ground. Both him and Gaethje have come out and adamantly denied this. Usman even clowned the reporter saying what a garbage take. At no point do I say anything like this. I don't know if they're just covering it up or not, because it sure sounded like that, and his face looked concerned, and he got up slow. So I don't know. If something did, he has knee issues, obviously, for people who don't know. So if something did happen to his knee, there's a chance this could get ugly quick. That obviously changes everything. But I'll assume it didn't, and I will say he makes this a competitive fight, but I'll go with Chimaev in the end, 29-28.
Omar.
UD.
Yeah. I love Kamaru Usman. I have a lot of faith in Kamaru Usman. I think if this was anybody else, I think I'd be more confident in Kamaru Usman. But there's just a lot of factors that are not on his side, I think, with the circumstances, him moving up in weight, it being last minute, and all these other things. And I've seen a lot of training video, I've seen the training videos that Chimaev has put out there. I've seen the training videos that Kamaru has put out there. And at this point, just what's visible, Chimaev looks a lot more impressive, man. There's just something about him that seems like he's just got that little extra bit of whatever it is to him right now. So I'm just gonna go with my instinct on this one, man. This fight really could go either way. Both of them are extremely fucking good, and both of them have ways to win this fight. But I just think that Chimaev is gonna get the opportunity to show how good he really is. Hopefully that's the case, just because of how much shit that boy talks on a regular basis. But I'm going to go with Chimaev here, man. I don't think he sleeps Kamaru or anything crazy. But what I do think happens is I do think he subs him. And I think he subs him in the third round.
So I think that this could be a classic. I think somewhat similarly to Burns' fight with Chimaev. I also think that this could very well be a y'all must have forgot fight for Usman, who is coming off of back-to-back losses against a guy who has proved to be, in this phase of their careers, just a stylistic matchup for Usman. But man, I just feel like Chimaev is just going to be too much for Usman at this stage of his career. And now he's 36. Chimaev is 29. I know. I'm going with the younger guy again. But it's not that he's younger. He's I think, going to be much more physically imposing. To Mark's point, Usman is not going to be used to that. I think he's going to be like, damn, this guy's big and strong. And Usman is usually used to the one who's the bigger and stronger guy fighting down at 170. So I think that might surprise him to a certain extent when it's, when rounds are live in the cage, so to speak. So I'll make the somewhat more boring pick because I do think it could be a classic, and I'm certainly rooting for that to happen. Give me Chimaev by decision. I'll say unanimous decision for Khamzat bores Chimaev. I want to be cool. I want to take Usman, but I don't think he's the guy to hand Chimaev his first loss, unfortunately, at this phase in his career. If this was Usman 5 years ago, perhaps. Not 5 years ago, but,
I love
4 or 5 years ago.
I saw a picture today, like a lot of times they have like comparison pictures, Usman at 170, for example, or like anybody, right? But they had a picture of Usman at 170, then they had a picture of Usman at 185. And a lot of times when you see like these comparisons, especially like if it was Conor McGregor, like you'll see the vast difference between what McGregor looks like. Kamaru Usman looks exactly the fucking
I had the
same.
same thought.
I know what you meant. I know what you're saying.
He looks this is exactly the same picture. It is not even any different. It's the same fucking picture.
Yeah.
So
all right, let's do this.
So Dana has said the winner of this fight will get a middleweight title shot. So if Usman gets the middleweight title shot, he will have done it by beating no middleweights other than Chimaev, if you want to count him as that. If Chimaev gets the title shot, he will have done it by beating Gerald Meerschaert as his best middleweight win, and then Usman, who's obviously a welterweight. So either way, it's going to be a strange middleweight title shot.
Yeah, you're right.
Although for Usman, at least, he can say he has beaten Strickland before. So he has that in his back pocket.
At 170, but yes.
Right.
Yes.
Didn't he beat him bad?
I mean, he Usman'd him.
Right?
He Usman'd him. He wrestled him.
It's kind of worked him. Yeah. All right.